And a man in North Carolina recently bought property. He found out that the graves were of enslaved people. Kenneth Spellin bought 2 acres of land in North Carolina. He planned to use the space as a place where his grandchildren could play. He says the previous owner mentioned a family cemetery on the land, but was very vague about it. Spellman, he says that he later found out that it was a slave graveyard. They found 40 to 50 gravestones, and the president of the local historical society says they used census and property records in order to determine that the property was owned by a Wortham family who were slave owners back in the 1800s. The family owned the property for over 100 years and grew tobacco on the land. An article from 1893 stated that investigators were working on a case after the owner at the time, George Wortham, he found a mulatto infant buried in a soapbox in the family cemetery. Spellman, the new owner, says that he now plans to preserve the legacy of the formerly enslaved people on his property and free the souls of all who were in bondage there. Not really sure how he's going to free those souls. However, this is what happens when you buy 40 acres, right? And then you find out, but then you have people, celebrities that come in and they have like their weddings on acres like this. And then you come back and found out like, wow, you were getting married on a slave plantation. I feel like if there are buried people that were there, it needs to remain a place for buried people. I understand that we all want to make money, and I'm sure they probably got a deal on it because the people who sold it knew that they were giving you a deal, because who wants to buy somewhere where there are 50 to 40 dead people that were there? But if it was somewhere where dead people were at, freeing the souls is leaving those people there and letting this be a place where more people can rest. I don't believe that you should build anything on top of it if it was once somewhere where slaves were at.
Yeah, I think the man bought it, of course, not knowing. Like he said that they told him there was a family cemetery. You're right. That's a little weird to want to buy something when you know there's already a family cemetery on the property. Yeah. But when he got and dug a little deeper, he realized that it was more to the story and that there was like 40 to 50 burial plots there. And then doing some research with local historians, he found that those were like actually people who were slaves who were buried on that property. And so kudos to this man, because what he's saying is, you know what, I want to honor these people. I want to find out who they are. I want to give them the proper burial, find out who they were, versus just, you know, having them in a shallow grave somewhere in my backyard. It's, you know, we're seeing this all over. Something like this happened in Florida. This is you know, the sign of our times, and you know, we know that black people were slaves. They were buried on plantations back in the day, and they never got their proper burials or their just due. And so, you know, I'm glad that he's bringing this to light and he's telling us, because this is a part of history. This was very interesting to me, just learning about this, because we don't, you know, necessarily hear a lot of stories like this.
Yeah, and it's just living proof that you cannot hide or bury history, because it will come to life in this particular situation. And there was one thing, one line that stood out in this paragraph. It said it will last another few generations, which simply means he's going to do what he can to preserve it. But who says what's going to happen 50 or 60 years down the line, maybe 100 years? But how can we avoid that? How can we make this a historical place where it can't be touched? That's something that I feel like we can free their souls, and we can do something of that nature.
Exactly, because Romeo, if they go on to make this something else that's not a burial site, then you have people, like I said, celebrities that say like, oh, there's this nice little beautiful ranch that's in wherever, and I want to get married there. Then you find out later like, oh my God, J-Lo got married on a slave plantation. Instead of keeping it what it is, which is people were buried there,
historical
make
grounds.
some, you know, make it a historical grounds, and maybe make money. I don't know, do something else, but keep it a burial ground. Don't make it anything else other than what it is.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree.